welcome to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions. Here we have intimate conversations with extraordinary dance and theater artists about reimagining creativity and supporting and building community. CVJS and I walk in solidarity and as allies for equality, justice, and respect. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris preach unity and healing. Let's join them. I'm Helen Pickett, and today's guest is Huell, the principal dancer, Pacific Northwest Ballet. We have known each other since 2017. Huell is coming to us from, there you are. Hi, Huell.
How are you?
I'm great. It's so good to see you. So actually, I was just going to say where you're coming from. Where are you in the world, actually?
Seattle, Washington. And I thought that it was supposed to be the typical gray, rainy Seattle. It's actually looking like a blue sky today.
Yeah, I see a little sun in the back wall with the leaves in it. There's a little, that's beautiful. Right on. You can get out there. It's your free day, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And you had to get up very early for this interview.
Coffee.
Yes. So Huell, I would like to start with your artist in residence position at Gonzaga University, Department of Theater and Dance. What does this entail?
So actually, that residency concluded last night.
Oh!
Yeah, we had the final hurrah, final performance. So it went, through a few different variations, determining what it was going to be due to COVID. Originally, pre-COVID, the plan was I would go out there with my partner, Sarah Gabrielle. I was going to choreograph a new piece on them. Sarah was going to stage an existing work of mine on them. And then we would do that sort of during an intensive period. We'd leave, they would rehearse it with their own faculty. And then we would come back for the week of the show with 4 or 5 other P&B dancers and do a shared program on stage with them. And I think it would have been fantastic to dance alongside that, that class, and didn't happen that way. But the woman who leads the department, Suzanne Ostersmith, she's got some real tenacity and was like, no, we're going to make it work in some way. This residency is going to work. And so we, we're able to do it over Zoom. So I just was here in my living room. They were able to have, with their restrictions, 12 dancers in the studio with at least 10-foot bubbles around everybody. Everyone remains masked the entire time. The final piece that I choreographed for them, masks are part of the costume. But yeah, so I was able to choreograph this. I choreographed a 16-minute ballet on them, all over Zoom. Most of it was done during 1 week where we rehearsed about 2 hours a day, and then I'd visit with them on Saturdays for an hour and a half for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow.
And there was a week where I taught, Sarah and I both taught some of their actual technique classes to be a part of it, be with them in residency that way, in their actual classroom, again, all over Zoom. There was a community aspect. There were a ballet class that was open to the public, to the community, that I taught. And that was really fantastic to be able to, sort of meet these people that are in Spokane, because the Gonzaga University is in Spokane, Washington, just on the other side of the state, over the mountains. And yeah, to meet these dancers that are part of their community, that grew up watching their ballet ensemble, or or were alumni of the university. To meet them, teach them a class, and then sit and talk with them afterwards was really lovely. And then there was also a colloquium that I took part in, where I got to speak with the students at the university and the faculty and express my thoughts on my job, what I'm doing, where I think arts are going right now, where they could go in the future. One of there was this sort of driving prompt, a question, and that they had given me some, that had to go along the lines of, where do you see art going in a world where so many see the arts dying? Mm. And when they sent me that line, that prompt, I couldn't agree with it at all. I couldn't agree with it.
I think as you are, just hearing you talk too, when you're saying all over Zoom, what we're doing is we're learning new tasks. We're actually growing through this. Right. And that is, I think, something that, because I know this is actually one of the questions, but well, actually, let's just go into that bit, because we're kind of there, and then I'll go back to this other question. But when we spoke this summer, I was going to actually do some teaching for you. But what I wanted to do was, I just wanted to bring out that you were offering dance classes in Seattle. And this was a community-based project. I talked about it. I thought, what a beautiful idea. And what benefits, because you spoke about community and talking about the arts, perhaps dying. And I, like you, don't think so. I think that necessity is the mother of invention, A, and B, arts have always grown in times of great distress. It grows anyhow. That's the beautiful nature of art. So this was a beautiful community-based project. What benefits came out of this offering, and how, if it did, how did your community grow because of this?
Right. So when COVID hit, P&B shut down, the school shut down, everything shut down. But there were so many people that were left still wanting to dance in some way. For all the individuals that were like, okay, this is a welcome break, I need to take this. I think that they made good decisions. And then for the ones that were like, okay, no, I'm gonna jump around outside, I'm gonna do pliés on my balcony, and they wanted somebody to lead a class. And Sarah Gabrielle and I, we had gotten some messages from a handful of the advanced students at P&B school, because I've served on the faculty for the advanced professional division since 2012, I think. And so they saw that we were just giving ourselves class just for us for a little while, and then they were like, any chance you'd be willing to let us in on that, where we could just follow? We're like, yeah, we can just build something. We'll just start teaching classes, which then, at first it was us, then it was, adding in other instructors, and, reaching out to principals at San Francisco Ballet to teach, reaching out to professors at Indiana University. Carla Corbis is there. She taught for us, and this entire time, I was in communication with Peter Bowl, going, I understand P&B is a big ship. Your engines got cut off entirely. It takes some time to get those moving again. And, until you have them moving, I'm going to continue to do what we're doing.
Right.
But the majority of these dancers, they are your students. And, so I understand once you guys have operations up and going, we'll gracefully step back. And so when that was going to happen was very unclear. So Sarah and I, we were building this program, and we were like, okay, we've got another week or so ahead. And I was like, I know the perfect thing. I'm going to talk to Helen. Because this they were asking, they wanted improv, they wanted, stuff outside of ballet technique. We were offering them, ballet technique, a fitness class every day. And then, we were starting to incorporate, more contemporary classes and improv. And so, yeah, we were doing this so that, 6 days a week, they were being offered 2 classes, and we were trying to up that. And yeah, I had called you and I remember I made a very terrible time zone mistake. Felt awful about that.
Oh, I can't believe you let it go.
We're eating dinner. We got to talking, and I love that, we were on that, a similar wavelength about, how this is not a time for arts to step back, our possibilities to go forward. I told the students and faculty at Gonzaga, I feel that the arts are very much like a phoenix. You cannot kill the arts. They will never die. It doesn't matter if you try to kill them or think that they will not go away.
Exactly.
They will always reinvent and find new ways to push forward. And yeah, so anyway, back to that community. It was phenomenal to offer, sort of build that teaching program over Zoom and reconnect with people that I had gone to school with.
Mm-hmm.
That I had gone to school with that live in various states or even countries.
Yeah.
That joined in to take some free classes, and I got to talk to them again. And they brought, recommended it to their friends. And then, Sarah, who's originally from Philly, her friends from Pennsylvania Ballet.
Nice.
Came and joined, or her friends that were in Pennsylvania and spread out joined in. And then, of course, since this was most of this was open to the public, whoever saw it on social media and tried was like, okay, yeah, it's free. I'm going to jump in. And then you get to.
It's beautiful because what Zoom is doing and what you did and the kind of open arms, right? I feel like we've hopefully we might be actually creating something beautiful that might be coming of this, is the fact that we might become a stronger, more integrated, more equitable community like this. I hope this sticks, because I'm hearing over and over again through these interviews and with people I keep in contact with, that this feeling of community and sharing and generosity, and actually all the things that are of the arts, are surfacing in far greater ways. So it's your experience with this and how you not only reach people in your community, but in the nation. And it's a great example, I think, that we can keep investigating and keep close to our hearts as a community, that dance can heal in far greater ways than perhaps this is what we're seeing now, how healing it can be.
The whole use of Zoom, and what I think a lot of people are seeing is its accessibility. And for too long, ballet especially, has not truly been accessible.
Yes, that's a very good point, Kyle. This brings accessibility. Absolutely.
And the outpouring from companies to share their work, to share not only archival footage, but to record new footage that can be shown on screen, it does not replace a live performance, but if you can show a screen dance for free or even for $10,
That's right.
how many more people then have access to it and are becoming part of that community?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Now, we're also, and we're moving quite fluidly. It's beautiful. It's a very symbiotic conversation here. So you are a choreographer. You just made a piece on Zoom for Gonzaga, but you've also made work for the main stage of Pacific Northwest and other pieces as well, I believe, on the second company. Is that right?
Yeah, it's our professional division. Yeah.
Okay. How was it to work with your colleagues? This is always a question that comes up for that I hear over and over again for dancers who are still dancing and then, you know, get the opportunity to work with their fellow colleagues. So how was it to work with your colleagues? What did you learn from coaching your peers? Because that's also a different situation. And how did your creative perspective shift after this particular kind of work?
Good questions. I actually, I would say 98% of the time, I thoroughly enjoyed working on that piece with everyone. You know, it's a challenge. It's a balancing act because when I think when you're a choreographer and you are brought in from the outside, you have that hat, and that is what you wear when you go and you sit and you move around the studio as choreographer, and you always wear that hat. And then to be an in-house choreographer that is also dancing, you're switching these hats. And while for me, I think it was easy enough to go, okay, well, I'm at the front of the room, it's this hat. The clock just, hit, it's a 5-minute break, that one's off. I'm done rehearsing. In that perspective, I have to go into being a dancer. That's fine. Like, those switches seemed to felt to occur pretty quickly for me. I don't know how, if everyone else from their perspective could switch as easily.
Well, there's also great luxury, right? You know those people intimately. So right. That's also, it's not like there wasn't a negative in this thing. I kind of think it would be amazing because a choreographer's dream is to know the dancers.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I'm curious also, because from my colleagues' perspective, is where I was thinking. But yeah, no, as from the choreographer's perspective, it is kind of a dream. I've seen these dancers for years. I've worked alongside them. This is my 13th season now at P&B. And so, yeah, the majority of them, I knew. You take classes with them every day. You rehearse with them every day. And, for some, yeah, it was like, looking at them and going, okay, I know exactly what I want you to do because I've seen you do something like it before, and I know that I can pull something great. But then you're looking at other dancers, you're going, I bet there's something else. I want to try to find, maybe you do the same thing over and over, or because you get cast in similar roles.
Yeah.
Why not if you're always getting the fast footwork? Let's try and give you something slow.
Great.
Yeah. It's a creative process. We can work on it.
Exactly.
No. You're gonna have to remind me this the second and third.
It was like 3 big questions. Sorry. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, it was the second question, right? Well, what did you learn from your peers through like no? What did you learn, or how did you learn? Did you learn something new about coaching through coaching your peers, like coaching dancers? And then the third part of that question was, did your creative perspective shift?
Okay. So I think what I saw from coaching my peers, dancers like a challenge. They
We all
really,
do, human
yeah.
beings.
And that was really, really nice and enjoyable to be a part of. Yeah, and coaching, when one set of words doesn't work, repeating them is not a good use of time. Yeah, so I think that we're working with these dancers. Sometimes I think that if you're working with students, um, a lot of times I get the either two different major feelings. One of there's just dead silence, and they just do what's being said to them because they don't think that they can speak up, or they just do what's being asked them because they're like, we have no fear. You want me to do 6 pirouettes and then a backflip and then land in the splits and then stand up without bending my legs? They're like, yeah, cool, we'll try it. And then you work with an older dancer, and they're like, my back, my right knee. I think I'm gonna mark that one. Actually, no, that step's not gonna work. That was something that I kind of thought was interesting. We're working with professionals. In some ways, there is a communication, a back and forth conversation going on, and it's something that I try and have when I work with students as well. I don't know if I'm always as successful, but that's something I need to work on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's that's what our work is, right? It is about constantly learning.
Yeah, every step. Yeah, but yes, yeah, changing the language that you're using. Instead of a technical correction, is it a correction that evokes emotion and feeling, or do you use imagery? And you could be working with a line of 6 dancers all trying to get the same step right, and all 6 of them might need something slightly different to get them all to the same level. I loved that. It was a puzzle for me to solve.
Right.
That was enjoyable.
Right. Well, so let's put your other hat on. So you've had the opportunity to work with several choreographers and dance a multitude of amazing roles in your 13 years with PMB. What were some of your standout roles that made you reimagine yourself? Yeah, that shifted your perspective as a dancer and a human being.
Yes. So I have been very fortunate with the roles that I've gotten to perform. Roles where I get to be a character always stick out to me. Doing Oberon in A Midsummer Night's Dream is very interesting to me. Doing one of the mannequins in Crystal Pite's Plot Point. And to me, that it's a character. It's a faceless character. I mean, you're wearing this sort of modified fencing mask.
Yeah.
And you're all in, head to toe in one color, and everything is body language. But it's a character, and you have feelings and emotions you have to portray in that. We did a ballet called Raku, Yuri Pasakos Raku, and I was the monk in that. And that was very challenging to have to force myself to go to a very dark place, a place to portray a character that would assault someone. But characters are, I think, really important. Stories are really important.
So how did these roles actually make you question art and reimagine yourself? What did they bring? How did they make you evolve?
Question art, I'm gonna say actually every role makes me question art. Right. And this goes back to, you know, what we talked about earlier, that accessibility. When every single time I step foot on stage, there's a part of me, a large part of me, that's going, who actually gets to be here? Who actually gets to see what we do? And what else could I be? What could I be right now? At this point in my life, had I taken a different route? Had I not pursued the arts? I thought it would have been wicked cool to be a chemist.
That's choreography too, isn't it? You're mixing things up.
Yeah. But what could I be doing in a lab right now? What problem could I be helping to solve? You know, could I be coming up with a vaccine for something? And that's sort of, you know, that curiosity that I have, and I cannot disagree with you and with any fiber of my being. You are so right. Art heals, but ballet, sometimes I wonder, you know, who can it heal if not everyone can be a part of that community? Historically, ballet is somewhat elitist. Somewhat, it is. It can be.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but so I'm going to bump to this question. I'm going to go back, but since you're talking about this so much, and I really think it's a great theme to stick with right now, since we're going there, in supporting and building a more equitable dance community, what are some of the specific daily practices we can be active with? And let's talk about ballet, yeah, since we're both of that world. What do you think some of the specific daily practices could be that we could be active with, not just talk about, but you know, actively be more inclusive?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm one of the things I do think, and it's something that I don't have a seat of real power. I mean, I'm thinking like artistic directors right now are very much, you know, the people that they program a year's worth of ballets.
Yeah, or more. They're usually 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge amount of power and responsibility to you know, build a more inclusive world for our art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who are they presenting on stage? Whose work is being shown? Something that I constantly, you know, and in the vein of representation, something that I've always noticed is when for us, you know, if you enter the theater in a non-COVID time, there are always staff and employees from the organization that are in the hall, you know, in the lobby, mingling. And I think representation is extremely important there as well. You have a development department, you have a marketing department, you have, you know, all these types of people that are non-dancers. But if they all look the same, what story is that telling to people who, you know, ballet historically does not have enough Black dancers, does not have enough people of color. And I think when it's not, you're not trying to, the practices are not necessarily they're not just to correct today, it's to correct the future.
Yeah, what I've been saying very much during this time is what we do today is our future.
Yes, yes. And yeah, I would like to see stories that aren't Eurocentric. We have all these Eurocentric fairy tales. And so Sarah, she's Mexican American, and her mom's originally from Mexico. Her dad grew up in Belize, and her family has a long has a Native Mexican lineage.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of what we think of just as Mexican stories. If you think post colonialization, there are a lot of stories there. There are a lot of Native Mexican stories. These could be ballets.
And there's a rich history of storytelling.
Yes.
So absolutely, there are many stories to tell. I mean, it's in the tradition, storytelling.
Right. And I think sharing stories is one of the better ways to include people. I think what you have going on with these creative, these jam sessions is people telling stories. You have had some incredibly brilliant guests that have come on and talked with you. And anyone who watches that then gets a little bit into their life and gets to know them and gets to see their story. And that's major.
Yeah, and that was the point of these also, to do that, but also to a professor who was also my thesis mentor, who I was lucky enough to study with, Thomas F. DeFrantz, Professor Thomas F. DeFrantz. He said something early on during the MFA. He said, you have to get yourself or get other people written into history in order for them to be remembered.
Mm.
It's about getting it written down into history or recorded into history. So we see this history looks way more rounded than perhaps what history had, perhaps from previous Eurocentric history, So I think, I think the stories is a beautiful way, like actually get different stories.
Right.
From around the world and get those told. It's a beautiful way of inclusivity, Kyle.
And I think once you start telling stories from other places, our world right now, you go to any major city, and there are people from all over who have moved there.
Beautiful.
There's somebody in that city that will know that story from when they were a child, or have a connection with that story from its place origin. That brings them in.
Yeah, exactly. And then it brings more people in.
And that broadens your community.
That's right. That's beautiful. So you have actually, when you were quite young, you actually received several awards. Prix de Lausanne, the Youth America Grand Prix. And what would you tell your 18-year-old self now? I've never asked a dancer this on this program, but I think if young people do watch, I think this is a question, because remember 18 and early 20s, we were it's just a quite stirred up time. So what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
You know, now I'm thinking momentarily about, various, 18, 20-year-olds that I've met, and some are very strong.
Solid.
Yeah, and they just march forward. I don't know if from growing up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and always being in a sort of small town.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity. I had a contract with the Royal Ballet.
Okay.
It was my dream company.
Oh.
And I had a contract with P&B, which I had attended summer there. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I was familiar with it. I knew nobody in London. My family knew nobody. We never went on vacation. We never traveled. It wasn't feasible.
Right.
And yeah, trying to figure out how do you, at 18, knowing nobody, knowing nothing about England, nothing about London, how do you move there? And some 18-year-olds would just do it.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me. It was frightening almost.
Yeah.
So
would you tell your 18-year-old self or your young self to go to London would you say just do it?
I've gone, and see, that's the thing. I've gone back and forth on that. I don't know if I would say just do it, because a couple of years into my career, I found out I had chronic exertional compartment syndrome in both my calves.
Right.
So no matter what, that would have happened. No matter what, I would have needed those surgeries.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was better to have been, still been in the States and, been able to fly back to Wisconsin where I had the surgery done, but labor and industry, took care of all of it. I maintained my job during that time. Peter was very kind, and, it was 13 months that I was out. If I had been in London, I don't know what would have happened.
Well,
but I mean, that's the thing.
I think that's great therapy too.
Right. No, I think what I would tell my 18-year-old self is that, I think it's important to have a respect for patients and to be patient with yourself, and that there is a level of patience that you need to have with your career as your body develops, as your artistic voice grows and develops. You may think that you might really be convinced that you're really good, but be patient, because you're always going to be learning something more. But on the other side of that, if there's something that you really want, patience, I think, can turn quickly to stagnation. For me, at least. I'm
just wondering about semantics, whether yeah, okay. For you, yeah.
For me. I sometimes wonder if I became too patient and waited.
Could patience be equated with comfort right now? Could those two words be interchanged?
Currently,
patience.
Yes, I do.
The habit of comfort that feels like patience, perhaps that's more. Because patience is something that I've worked on my whole life, and I'm not good at it. And I continue to work on it. You know, I admit I'm not a patient person, but COVID, I'm becoming more patient because of it. It's welcome. I don't feel like it's comfortable, however. That is my thing. Patience doesn't feel comfortable to me. It feels like it's not a waiting. I know what you mean. Like I know what you mean. There's a connotation of waiting with patience. I know,
Right. Yes. Yes.
but there is something to say about that. If we will call it waiting, there is something that there's still growth in that. And maybe the stagnation comes when it tips and it's no longer patience, no longer waiting. It's simply comfort. And I'm going to ride this out because I know it. I
Right.
think that's the slight thing
Yeah.
that I was kind of.
It's just like, it's a very fine edge too, I think, for me, with when that where that cusp is into where there is growth in waiting, and then it just a couple of times in my career I felt that happen. And one of those times I didn't feel that, I eventually was just saying, I don't feel like my career is going the way I want it to. I don't feel that I am progressing anymore. And I had told this to Peter, and I was like, I have turned into something that I've never wanted to see in myself. I show up to work and I do a job.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if that's what I'm doing, it's not good for me, but it is not good for our art form. And this is a contract that could be better used by somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had applied to school and, went and did, school interviews, and I was ready to walk.
What brought you back?
I got promoted that year. Oh, okay, I guess I can stick it out.
Well, that's good. That's a good shot in the arm.
Right. that was the year that I got promoted to soloist, and I was like, oh, I'll try it.
Maybe there's something else for me here. So do you, okay, well then do you have a bucket list project or role? Let's leave it to one of each, like a role or a project, bucket list.
Project. And it's actually something that Sarah, Gabrielle, and we've been discussing for a while. We want to get it. We have a name. I believe we're sold on a name for it. We just got to fill it, paperwork and launch. But a dance initiative about accessibility.
Beautiful.
About that telling stories, bringing in, trying to hire choreographers to tell stories, and also a flip component to it. Growing up in a small community where dance wasn't present, and people don't think of it as an acceptable job necessarily. Parents don't go, oh yeah, you can support yourself being a dancer. Like, no, you have to go to school and become an engineer, or and I would like to help show that that's not true.
That's beautiful. So along those lines, do you have a daily insight or like an inspiration that you can share about living a creative life?
If you want to make something, make it. If you don't think that you're any good at it, it doesn't matter. Just create. You want to sing a song, sing a song. You want to make a dance, make a dance. You don't have dancers to make on, you have your own self. Nice. You can literally make art anywhere. So do it. If you have the passion and the drive, make it.
Beautiful. So, and then since I love it. This was a completely different order of questions today. I loved it. We just flowed with it. Um, do you have a favorite or impactful memory from your creative life? I know there are many. I always have to say that, but like if one comes up now.
It's the connection of, speaking with you now, but it was, it has held a very special place for me. The residency at UNCSA and working with you, and the information that you gave to us, not just choreographically, but improvisationally. I just so vividly remember being in the studio, and you're leading us. It's me, Mary Ellis, Mari, Charlotte, Susan Jaffe's in the studio too. We're doing cross hemispherics. I feel so uncoordinated, like I've never seen my limbs in my life. Everyone else seems to get it. All that information that you gave, I loved it. It was fascinating. I've held on to it as best as my brain and body have allowed me to. I have notes written down to try and that I can go back to and look at. But especially timing wise, when that happened, after that summer, I returned to P&B, and the first thing that we were working on was Bill Forsyth's One Flat Thing reproduced.
Oh God, it's such a great piece.
Yes.
Oh.
Immense. I mean, talk about a piece I think that really changed the way I perceived myself as a dancer.
Oh, great.
The way that I looked around the room, the way that, and I had two parts in it. And so my brain was fried, my body was fried every day, and I was just happy.
Yeah, and talk about like senses being turned on. If you are not dropped into the present and you don't have this laser focus, a table is going to be slammed into you, or you're going to slam into someone else. It's a remarkable piece.
Yes. I mean, absolutely immense. And I loved it. And, so yes, that working with you and seeing how immediate I could take that information and actually, put it into what I had to do at work, what I have to do with my own self.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a special summer. That was our first summer doing that with Mari, and yeah, I've kept in close contact with her too.
Yeah.
She's living in France now.
Yeah, with her like her chateau.
Yeah, it's going to be European's Jacob's pillow.
Right. and her new doggy that climbs ladders.
Her super smart dog. I know. It was a very special summer. I loved it. I wish that I had been there longer. We worked out subsequent years that I could be longer, but yeah, it was a very special year. I remember specifically being in the studio with you. You had a very talented young man,
mm-hmm.
and that kid could dance. And,
oh yeah.
And I remember speaking with you about coaching and about how how to approach coaching. I remember that so well, standing with you and watching your work and being the observer, and then speaking in it was you were very generous also in how you could take the information. I think it is an intense week for you guys, for someone to constantly be questioning your work. And yeah, you were very generous in how you took it, and your patience really worked for you there.
It's art is subjective too. So I don't know if we have I don't know if there's the need to ever not listen. You should always listen.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of a statement Bill said at one point. He's like, I don't understand boredom. How can you ever be bored? I don't understand being bored. And it's true. It's like, how could you ever be bored in this life? You know?
Right.
Wow, Kyle, I mean, so great to talk to you. And it's been a while, and we had a little bit of a conversation this summer, but I just loved hearing your point of view, your generosity, inspiration, really fun. So do you have a website by any chance?
I do.
Okay,
kdavischoreography.com.
great. And then, of course, people can find out also more about you if they just go to PMB. They can read a bio about you.
Yes.
Do you have an Instagram handle?
I have 2
Good.
Instagrams, kyle.m.davis and kdavis choreography.
Great. Great. So everybody can find you in multiple ways, which is great. Also, in the description box below this video, you'll find a short bio from Kyle. So you'll be able to start there. We have new guests every week. Our next interview will be with Whitney Huell, a dancer with Kansas City Ballet. And now is thank you time. Gracie, I know you're listening. Thank you so much for always making this program run smoothly. Thank you, dance community. I love being a part of you, constant source of inspiration. And Kyle, thank you again so much for having this conversation today and learning more about you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Keep reimagining creativity. Bye.
Bye.